So with 3D season being over and indoor season about to start, I need to build new target arrows. So today I figured I'd make a video of showing my process on how I go through and build target arrows. They are a slightly wider diameter than my 3D arrows, and we'll see how that process goes. First step in arrow building, at least my first step in arrow building, is I want to know the arrow length. Now I already know that for my target bow, the Title 38, I have a 29.5-inch draw. I know that I want a 28-inch arrow. However, I will go through and show you how I got that number using this homemade draw board. For my particular draw board, it's a lot easier to work it with a bare bow, meaning I've already taken the sight off, it's charging right now, got the light charging, and taking the stabilizers off. Certainly don't need to do this to get your draw length, but the way my particular draw board is set up, it certainly helps. My particular setup is fairly basic. I have a safety mechanism with this 550 cord. Put the carabiner directly onto the D-loop and then wrap the 550 cord around, and that way, just in case the D-loop breaks, this 550 cord will catch and I won't fire the bow. I will knock this arrow, but I still don't want the arrow to go through the wall of my shed, so I still like the safety mechanism. Put this on, and I just need to add just enough tension where it will sit by itself. Taking the dry fitted assembled arrow, going to knock it, and I have a limb driven rest that will come up as we pull the strings back. And fine tune it until I'm right there. Okay, so silver Sharpie, and what I'm going to do, without putting my hands in there too much, I'm going to mark right where my rest is right now. All right, take my marked arrow. So before we cut, I want to spin the arrows. Essentially is what I'm looking for is one side have more wobble than the other. If I don't get any difference between the front and the back, and then what I will do is I will cut equal lengths from the front and the back. If I get more wobble from the front, I will cut more off the front than I will off the rear and vice versa. So I love this mod saw. It has everything in one. And I'm using the grain of the wood of the desk, the bench. I can see. So now it's time to cut. Kind of going back and forth between 27, 27.5, and 28 inches. My 3D arrows are 28. These are going to have a heavier field point with the fact weight system. However, they're also a stiffer arrow. So what I think I'm going to do is cut an original 6 at 28 inches and see how they tune and how they're grouping and how they're shooting. If I'm happy with it, then great. I'll finish the rest of the 6 with the 28. If not, I will start knocking off 1/4 inches, never getting below 27 inches, and seeing how they tune off of that. So starting with 28, these are all 32 inches, so I'm going to start cutting 30 inches, go through all 12, flip the arrows around to the other side, bump the saw up to a 28 for the final cut, cut them all at 28. So now, for honestly, I think the most boring part of the whole process, but an absolutely critical process for the most accurate arrows, is squaring the cut edges. Luckily with the mod saw, kind of an all-in-one system, is I'm going to move this glider all the way up to the sandpaper. Just going to square the edges. You can go through the whole process of using the silver Sharpie to ensure that you are flush, and I'll show you a demonstration of that. What we do is take a silver Sharpie and just like that, put it on the square. And all the silver's gone. So essentially what it does is it took off a clean edge. There's no left. That's as square as it's going to get. As you can see, that was kind of the amount that I will do. I don't need to mark every single one because after doing this hundreds of times, I just know that's how much it takes to square up on using this saw. So what I have found with gold tips is they absolutely do have a spine. And the way I like to do it, and I found pretty good consistency with it, and it is definitely what I think is the easiest way, using the vise to find out which way it consistently bends. Let's bring this in. So once again, I've just made another dry fit, and really you can just use any point. You could use the bushing on both ends, you can use the points on both ends, doesn't really matter. What does matter is doing your best to keep the arrow straight so you're not inflicting any artificial torque on it. I have little marks on mine that roughly put it in the same spot, and as you can see, it bent that way. So I'll kind of notice which way it went. Came right back to that other one. Alright, so that one's straight up. So that's where I believe the spine is, and just to make sure, what I'm going to do is turn it 90, 45, whatever, just turn it a bit. And I see it spun a little bit different that time. So I'll release the tension. Alright, bent that way, bent that way, bent that way. Alright, I'm finding that binding that way, so what I will do is make a small mark where I believe the spine to be, and that way when I fletch, I do my best to make this the top of the arrow where I made that marking. I'm going to do everything I can to make it in between the two top fletchings. Alright, so the next step is I prep the field points with the weight system. I have 120 grain field points for the XXX and a 50 grain insert, making for a 170 grain field point. Some people say putting Loctite or glue is a good idea. Some people say it's a waste of time. Go with what you feel. I can't imagine a small dab of blue Loctite is a bad thing. Go through. Doesn't take much. Just a dot. What I use is, I don't even know the size of the Allen wrench. I just found an Allen wrench that fits the cutout that's inside the fact weight system. Gold Tip makes their own really long system, so you can add weights from the bottom of the arrow all the way through without having to take everything apart. I know I'm not going to put more weight than this in, at least I don't expect to at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and start to glue these in as is, or glue the field points and the knock bushings in, and not worry about changing the weights at a future time, because I'm confident that these will work just fine. So something I like to do before I start building is I want to weigh the fletchings, and when I do this is it helps me with the bear shaft tune. So as you can see, I have a reloading scale here, very, very accurate. So 4 of the TAC 375s is 31.0 grains. 31 divided by 4 equals 7.75, 7.9, 7.6, 7.8, 7.7, we'll measure those one more time together, 31.0. So 7.75 per fletch is a good average. So what I like to do, and I do this so I can bear shaft with the correct, not only arrow weight, but it's really small amount of weight, and the back of the arrow can really influence spine. And I will take 6 inches of electrical tape, and I just want to know how much 6 inches of electrical tape weighs. 9.2. All right, so let's go to 5 inches of electrical tape. 7.6. Okay, so that's pretty lucky. That worked out very well. So what I'm going to do is cut 4 pieces of 5-inch electrical tape. And on one of the arrows, I'm going to wrap those 4 pieces where the veins would be. So I would wrap, I'll show you when I do it, probably like 2 in the rear, 1, and then 1 to distribute that weight across that. And then when I bear shaft tune, not only is the arrow the correct weight, but it's the correct spine. So when I'm paper tuning the bear shaft, the spine is going to be accurate to the final fletched arrow. All right, so next step, we're going to assemble the field points and the bushings. I use hot melt. This is whatever brand. I believe it's the one that was recommended by Podium Archer on their website. It works very well. Don't need a big flame. Just enough to give you a little bit of heat. I grab the bushing and I just warm it up a little bit, and I just kind of go back and forth between warming up the glue and the component. Give it one last kiss, get the glue soft. Just like that. Once the glue cools down, you just ball it up in your finger and it comes off. Same process with the field point. Heat it up a little bit. And you can kind of see when the glue gets melty. Don't need a lot. That's plenty. Let the glue dry. As you can see, the bushing is already cool, and it just comes off in your hand. There you go. 1 down, 11 to go. For now, I'm just going to make 2. I'm going to fletch one, and I'm going to put electrical tape to simulate the weight of the fletches in order to mimic the spine. I don't really care too much about how much it's mimicking the weight of the arrow. And this is for a paper tune, so a 7-yard shot, but I do care about how the weight of the rear will make it a stiffer arrow. So I want to make sure everything is exactly how the final product will shoot like. All right, so let's fletch one, let's tape one. So I'm going to be doing a 4 fletch, and my Bitzenberger is currently on a 3 fletch for my hunting setup. Changing these from a 3 fletch to a 4 fletch is very easy. We'll get that to 4 fletch, we'll put in an arrow, we'll see how the clamp is laying. If need be, we'll adjust this in order to make sure that the clamp is sitting flush with the surface of the arrow. You can see the different 120, which is for a 3 fletch, 90 for the 4 fletch, and the bottom one's for the bat wing. Going to loosen the 120 all the way. You don't want to lose it, so don't let it fall out. And then put in the 90. And then, so then I'll count the clicks. You can 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's back at center. Alright, so the first thing we do is we need to put a knock on our bushing. So these are pin knocks that go on the pin bushing very easily. and then you put the nock in the little groove. So what I want to do is make sure that the helical, the angle that the magnets are going to rest the clamp on, are going to be flush with the arrow, or the clamp is flush with the arrow. And as you can see, I did not need to make any adjustments from my previous arrow build. That's real nice. I have a left helical, as you can see the left right there. With the left helical on the bitses, you have to grind off the tip, or else it's going to sit weird over here, and it will have that gap like that, because the tip comes down and kind of rests over here. So you grind off that top, or the tip of the left helical, and it sits real nice. All right, let's get to fletching. So I always find a spot. I know that this first large dash is where I want the end of my fletching to be. Put it right there. When using tack vanes, I use the tack pen. Quick little dab, make sure that the pen's wet. I use the tack product. I put a little dab, maybe every 3/4 inch, ½ inch. Run it up to make it consistent. Hold the arrow secure. Line it up in the back. Push down. Let go. Do a quick little visual. If any glue came out. So when I'm done, I have this really fancy arrow dryer. All right, let's build the bear shaft. All right, build bear shaft as easy as can be. I have the Easton T-square. I'm going to use that as my ruler. 0 to 5, the measurements that we did yesterday, and this is as good as you can get it. Don't stress about it. All right, got my 4 pieces cut to mimic the weight of the 4 vanes. Once again, I'm using the tack 375s. And what I'm going to do is just lay it down as flat as I can. I wanted to do 2 in the back. I'm going to offset it just a little bit, just so it kind of runs forward, sits as flat as possible. 1 in front of that. And the last one in front of that. And what we've done is create a bear shaft that will have the exact weight and, more importantly, the exact spine of the fletch shaft. So when we actually do our bear shaft tuning, we're comparing apples to apples. So I'm in the school of thought of paper tuning about 5 to 7 yards away in order to maximize the worst part of an arrow flight. My bow is currently tuned to my 3D shafts, which are just slightly smaller than this. So if I had to guess, this is going to set a little high on the rest, which is going to give me a knock low tear. But my left and right should be good. But it's a stiffer arrow, so we'll find out. When you're doing this, what you're really focusing on is no hand torque. That's a bad tear. So I just wanted to demonstrate why I do a bear shaft tune. I went and shot the one fletched arrow, and while it's not a perfect bullet hole, you can see the difference of how much fletching helps. Not perfect, but I wouldn't need to switch top hats with that. I could adjust that with a small micro adjustments of the rest. However, these are the true flight of the arrow. So I want to tune the bow to that, and then those fletchings will have less work to do in the end. Alright, so after switching the top hats again, what I did the first time, because it was such an extreme tear, I moved both the top and the bottom cam in the direction of the tear. And essentially I had an equidistant tear in the opposite direction. So I went back and just moved the top cam in the direction of the new tear. I'm able to micro tune the rest. I never want to do big movements with the rest. Try to keep it at center shot. And as you can see, this one has a little slight left, but this one is a straight up and down tear high. So I move the rest, or the blade, depending on what's easier for your particular setup, up towards the tear. So move the rest slightly up, just micro adjustment on the Hamskea. I shoot the Hamskea Trinity, so it's real easy to make those adjustments. And let's see what our results are. Bear shaft, bullet hole. Yeah, no, real good. And then fletching. So that is the first step of how I bear shaft tune. From here, we will go on to bear shaft tune point of impact. So if you noticed on the paper tear, on the paper tuning, they weren't perfect bullet holes, and that's okay. I could care less. They were very close. Paper tuning, for me, is a starting point. What I care much more about is consistency of point of aim, point of impact. So to finish out the bear shaft tunings, what I'm going to start doing is I will have to adjust my rest, or excuse me, my sight. My sight currently now is built for my 3D arrows, which are lighter. I haven't even weighed these yet. These were, I think, 408 grains, my 3D setup. Now my target setup definitely is going to be heavier. For now, what I'm going to do is start using my bare shaft, one shot, and then my fletching arrow, next shot, and start tuning the rest and micro adjustments so where they are hitting at the same point. We might have a good tune that does not need to be adjusted. I will call the bare shaft tune complete, refletch up some more. Okay, so as you can see, I've had a couple rounds in a row where both impacts are really close to each other, shooting well, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but the flight angle, you can see very consistent arrow flight between the two. So for now, I will fletch up the remaining 5 that I built and start shooting some faces. Probably do a torque tune as well in there, but that could be a different video. Thanks for watching.